Hello everybody. And this video is going to be the third tank on my new rack. We did this snowball tank. Everything's looking good. I see some molts in there. No dead shrimp. All good. And then we've got the Bloody Marys in this tank. There are a bunch of young shrimp in here. They're all looking super good. They're all up in the moss. And then today's project and the last thing we got to do to get this up and running is the green Jade tank on top. So this has the same lights and same everything, same filter setup as the first two. Now with this little air pump deal, I've discovered something, and so I had to change up how these airlines are routed. So it turns out this little air pump, I don't know if I can show it on here. It has two air outlets. Well, one air outlet makes one tank boil, but when you split it and put it on the two tanks for one outlet, it's not enough. So one outlet is too much for a tank, and two tanks is too much for one outlet. So what I did is took both the air outputs and got one of these little gang valves, three-way. Put air on one side, air on the other. So that this is coming from the pump, and that's coming from the pump, and then tank, tank, tank. And so we're not going to find out for sure if we have enough air till we fill this up with water. So that's what we'll be waiting to see. So I did, like, that one is open fully. That one was more air was coming out of that one, like valved it down just a hair. So I think we'll probably be okay. So let's get this thing started. The first thing we're going to do is put in some sand, but these tanks have the black diamond blasting sand. And normally I have my green Jades on black sand, but I want to try something different. I want to try some lighter sand. So when I want the more lighter, natural looking sand, I get paver sand from Lowe's. I think the brand name's Colorscapes or something. But it's just sand. It has a nice mixture of grit, and I rinse out all the finer grit so that leaves behind the more coarse grit. So let's get this sand in here. And for something else, since the bottom two tanks are coming out of the stand a little bit, I am top tank is pushed all the way to the back because we don't have to worry about another level on top of it to squeeze our hand into to work on. So I'm going to put that all the way on the back, and it gives me space to stash stuff because I always need space to store stuff, put stuff, food, and whatever, nets and stuff like that. All right, so let's get this sand in here. All right, I hope this is enough sand. I'm not sure that it will be. Well, we're going to have to make it be because I don't want to drive a half hour to Lowe's for a couple handfuls of sand. So we're going to make this work. Oh, yeah, we got plenty. I think, anyway. Get the last bits in here. Now, you got to spread it out nice and even. Again, we're not going for aquascaping or anything crazy. This is just a shrimp breeding tank. And I with just moss, and I really like how this moss looks when it grows up. It looks really nice. Let's see if we can get the whole bottom covered. That's all we're going to be able to do. I'm standing on a ladder. Careful not to hit my head on a ceiling fan. I think it's going to be just enough. We ain't going to have enough in here to really plant stem plants or anything, but we're not going after that. The middle is a little deep where I dumped it. Just enough for the shrimps to walk on and forage on. I think that'll work. All right, different look than the other ones for sure. And so, like all the other tanks on this rack, they're going to be for the shrimp that are outside. And the shrimp that are outside are my special projects. And so, these are my greens. Oh, look at those guys in here. Holy smokes. See if we can find some more to look at. But anyway, I don't want to focus with the glare being super bad. But we're going to get some moss out of here to start this tank. Whew. The ones outside are just as good. I cannot wait to bring those in. All right, time to plant the moss. And like I did before, you take it and you spread it out. This is all one big clump, so I'm not going to shred it apart. I'm just going to spread it out nice and even like that. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. I'll make this moss and this tank a little bit off-centered. Not all the way in the back corner, but it's a little bit thick right here, a little bit thick here. And then we're going to take, like I did in the other videos, little pinches of sand just to hold it in. Now, like I tell you guys, moss doesn't grow roots or anything. This just helps anchor it into place so it grows in one spot and lives in one area and isn't roaming the tank. The moss will do just fine. In fact, outside in the tubs, I have moss. I can't keep it down because in the sun, it pearls, which means the sun makes it create oxygen bubbles. And then when it gets covered in pearl bubbles, then it is impossible to get to stay down. So I have huge mats of moss just floating at the top of some of the tubs outside. So the next thing we're going to do is it's adding safe. Like this is what I put in all my tanks. All my tubs outside, all my Neo tanks where I use tap water. There's the safe. Now, let's see the ultimate test of the new rack. How's it going to work when we fill it up with water with 3 tanks? Let's see how this goes. Well, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. I like the way this paver sand, but you gotta rinse. You gotta rinse out almost all the fines, and you get left with what's behind. So it's a nice mix of coarse and fines. Looks really natural. And the best news is we have enough air. All three are running just fine, but I will say it's probably the limit. This little I got it turned all the way up to 8 watts. I got all the lines. There's no valves closed or anything. None of these valves, none of the valves on the actual sponge lines. So I think that's the limit. 8 watt, this little 8 watt silent pump will do 340-gallon breeders. But like I said earlier, you gotta combine forces here because it has 2 outlets and one isn't enough to run 2 tanks. But if you combine them into one manifold, then it's enough to run 3 of these. So that's good. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is from that same tank we got a sponge, or the same tank we got the moss, we're going to do a sponge squeeze because that tank's always a nice, good, healthy tank. And I don't see it now, but I did see a little baby green shrimp. Is that him right there? Yeah. We had a stray little baby green one end up in here. That's why we always select our plants and do our sponge squeezes from the correct tank so we don't end up with the wrong shrimp and mess the tank up before we even get started. Alright, let's get this tank seated. A sponge filter from that green Jade project tank. And we're just gonna do this. Squeeze out some of the yuck. There's a lot in that sponge. Alright. That'll give us the seed. The tank that we want covers all the surfaces and muck and gunk and not too much, but it'll be good. It'll get all the goodies that the shrimp will love to graze on and get the biofilm kick started. I'm excited. Can't wait. Next step, we'll be going outside to collect some green jades. And here's the green jade tub. Look at all of them in there. They're everywhere. Look at this big old floating thing of moss. You can see all the shrimp in there. I can't see anything because the glare's so bad. It's hot as heck out here today. There are lots of them in here. Look at these little tiny babies. Alright, let's scoop some out. So here are the random scoops of green jades we got. There are a few smaller ones that are a little yellowy. You know how green jades are, pain in the butt. But most of them are pretty much perfect. So I'm going to pick out a few of these lighter ones that we're trying to avoid. See if I can get, there's a couple right there. You get kind of yellowy looking. There's one. The rest of them are pretty good. Let's see, I'd say there's so many babies. That's going to be the problem when I sort these out. When I harvest them all out is 80% of the shrimp in there are babies. So I'm hoping that's why I want to do these harvest. I plan to do the harvest in phases. So I'm going to get all the ones I can scoop out and leave all the moss and algae and stuff alone. And then at the end of the year, completely take them down for the winter. and do one final clean out. I might even do it into 3 different clean outs. So I'm not adding in 1,000 shrimp into a tank all at once. All right, and since these guys come from outside and they get rained on and the water is a little bit softer than what we got in here. So I got the valve all the way open. Air stone at the end and the tank that the shrimp are going in. Little air valve. I got all opened up. Suck on it. Get it started. The siphon. And valve it down to drip, drip, drip. About like that. And then when this guy's all the way filled up, we'll know that's probably good enough. All right, after about an hour and a half or so of a drip acclimating, let's put the shrimpies. Oh yeah, that big one is buried, and a bunch of little ones. Here we go. Ooh, look at them. I'm interested to see how they go on the lighter sand instead of black sand. I think they'll look pretty cool. Alrighty, there you have it. The new rack of 3 40-gallon breeders is set up, and they're still in their cycling stage. We put in just a handful of shrimp in each tank, seeded it. I'm going to very lightly feed it for the next month or so. And then it's going to be time to start packing them full of all those shrimp we've seen outside. So the tank is done. The rack is done. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.